And I'm turning off push to talk because I'm going to be talking a lot. Alright, let me share my screen here. Okay. So, this is my loot sheet. Everybody should be able to see my loot sheet on the screen there. People able to see it?
Yep.
So a couple of important things here as you are getting it set up. The two first things that you have to do is you have to set up your name. Your name has to be exactly how it is in game. The reason is that the data export that we get gives us the player name in game automatically, and so like I have this funky character in mind now, so it needs to match exactly. Second thing is you need to set up your class and your main spec in here, which for most people it's not that big of a deal, but for nope, not a warlock. That was not what I meant to do. There we go. Why did it clear my data? There we go. So, all right. So once we set up our name and our class, then we can start to input our items into the sheet. Items at the top of the sheet in the 50 slot are the most desired items. Those are the things that your end raid weapons and things like that usually go up there. And then you go down from there. We see that some of these items are in red text, some of them are blue, and some of them are black. These have different point values basically assigned to them. The red items are reserved. That means that they take up the entire row. You can't put anything next to them. The blue items are limited, which basically you can put next to each other, but they still count for a point. I can't remember what the AP stands for, but basically you can only have 3 points in each bracket. So we see here I have Light Fathom, Scepter, Verdant Sphere, and Sunshower Light Cloak. Each of these are worth a point. That means that I can't put any more reserved or limited items in this bracket. So I chose to fill the rest of this bracket with unlimited items, so they can go wherever you want them to. So then we go into the next bracket. I can start to add reserved and limited items again, and each bracket sort of goes down that way. There are specific rules that apply. So you can only have one item for each item slot in each bracket. So as an example, you can only have like one weapon in bracket 1 and one weapon in bracket 2, etc. One trinket in bracket 1, one trinket in bracket 2. You can't stack a bracket with all of the weapons or all of the trinkets. What this does is it forces people to spread gear out, prioritize what you specifically need, based on the gear that you already have, and it when it gets into the loot sheet, you're basically lengthening, spreading out the point value for those items, so we don't have everybody having the exact same point values assigned to those.
So I ran into that today with jewelry, specifically rings, and I don't know. It seemed kind of. I wanted a PvP ring and one of my PvE rings in the same, whatever you call it, rank or bracket. I'm not sure if it's just consideration to maybe remove that restriction from things you can wear 2 of. I guess that's only rings, but
rings and trinkets. But I mean, rings and trinkets. But we certainly don't want to remove it for trinkets are some of the most desired items.
Yeah,
in the game,
but
so
what's the thinking of like? I don't know if that wants to be their 2 items. Like, why not let them do that?
Because then you can get into a position where people are like, well, I can wield 2 weapons, so why can't I do that? Right?
I guess I don't know. Just that doesn't bother me personally. I don't see much of a reason to prevent people from prioritizing the items that they can prioritize where they want them to, regardless of slot.
Yeah,
I don't know. This is just
I mean,
feedback.
ultimately, the thing that actually like that normalizes everything is that if everybody's following the same rules, then it applies, universally to everybody, so it doesn't really matter. It just the whole point of it is to cause the spread of point values, so that when we get it into the loot sheet, it basically if I have full attendance and somebody has half attendance, and we put rings in similar spots, or things, that it basically causes a point spread no matter what. So other things that I wanted to talk about here. Tokens. You use the name of the token, not the name of the item that you would equip. So you have Helm of the Vanquished Defender, which is the token for the multiple classes, because it's the thing that drops. It's not the thing that you're equipping. As well as things like if you have blacksmiths have their smithing weapons, those need to go into your loot sheet as well, because it tells us that you need the vortexes. Same thing with the belts, like belt of blasting. You need to list that on your loot sheet as well. That adds you to the queue for where you would get your belt of blasting if we get the pattern. Other things, as you go down the brackets, the bottom, the no bracket area here is basically where you can put, all of the rules are basically off. You can put as many reserved items next to each other in here as you want, off-spec items, that sort of thing. Off-spec items are rated at a 50% point value for what you assign them to. So this is like an off-spec helmet. So here I have my main spec helmet. This is an off-spec helmet. So if I wanted the helmet for for tanking or whatever, then this would be put into the sheet at 50% of 35 for the helm. Okay. Any of these things, belt of 100 deaths, it's gonna go into the loot sheet at a 19 instead of a 38. This is an off-spec item for me based on my class and spec that I set up here. So the tokens are a little bit weird because of this OS categorization. That's just if you're doing a duplicate of the token. Otherwise, everything is put in just as the name of the item, as we see here. These are off-spec items, but they're just the name of the item. Once you are done with this sheet, then you submit it to an officer. Really, Sid or myself have control over the loot sheet, and we'll put that into the final loot sheet. And the way that the final loot sheet. Well, first, are there any other questions about these sheets and configuring them and stuff like that before I move on? Are you using this to build your loot sheet so you get everything before Muzan?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Then okay. So I want to show you what the loot sheet looks like in action. This is the Naxx loot sheet that we used at the end of Classic, and it has a bunch of different things that we see on here. This is what people will ultimately end up looking at the most, which is basically here's the items and here's the ordered list of who gets the item if it drops. If we see Harbinger Doom, if it dropped, Dead would have gotten it. Next would have been Zysek, then Trigger, and Space, and Hitardo, and so on. If dead is not here, it just goes on to the next person in the list, obviously. And yeah, if it drops and dead decides to pass it, then it goes to Zysek. It doesn't go to the person that dead decides that he wants to give it to. That's not how it works. It goes to the next person in the list. And then, yeah, if dead did decide to pass it, what would happen is we would come over into the loot list tab here, and I would find dead. That was a bad example. Oh, there he was. So I would find dead, and then I would, in this pass column here, I would add a 1. Let's see, which one was it? Harbinger Doom. There we go. I accidentally selected. So if he passed it, then I would add a pass bonus to him. So I come over here, and we see that the next time if it dropped, his value went up. Okay, his value goes up just for this item. And what this is, so it doesn't go up for any other items in here. It doesn't go up for the Signet or Widow's Remorse or whatever. And what this is incentivizing is looking at if this is a bigger upgrade for Zysek, for example, then Dead will say, well, this is like a marginal upgrade for me. It's a bigger upgrade for Zysek. I'm going to pass it to Zysek, and he gets a bonus on the next time that it drops. So it's like next time that it drops, he doesn't get passed by some person who just joined the raid or something like that, right? So he gets incentivized to pass if it's an upgrade for somebody else, so that he can have a priority on it next time it drops. We also have attendance. Attendance looks a little bit different than it did in the old sheet. I'll show you what it looks like in the new one. Okay. We have well, here's what it looked like in the old one. Actually, I'll show you the old one first. We just have a rolling attendance, which goes back a long time that we had the data. But we have a rolling attendance window. We have a percentage value here, and then this percentage value adds points to your overall score. So up to I think it's up to 10 points based on a 6-week window now. So if you had 100% attendance over 6 weeks, then you would have 10-point bonus onto all of your values that you assigned here. So you would have a 60 for Light Fathom Scepter, for example. Okay. And what that means is if I put Light Fathom Scepter at 50, I have perfect attendance, then I'm only rolling on Light Fathom Scepter with other people who also put it at 50 and also have perfect attendance. If nobody else has that, then I just get it when it drops. Simple. Now, the way that attendance is a little bit different now is we do have this this veteran bonus. Okay. Now, this veteran bonus is an addition up to over the course of 24 weeks, and it goes up to 1 point. And then you keep that 1 point unless you if you are gone for a long time, then you lose your veteran bonus. Okay. This will basically take my 50 with perfect attendance, which would be 60, and if I had full veteran bonus, then it would be 61. Okay. So at the end of 24 weeks, I would basically have 61 points on an item. Again, this is to stop somebody who just joined the raid or joined the raid 6 weeks ago, coming in. We kill Kael'thas the first time, and they take a weapon off of that, right? So this is a way to sort of honor the people who've been here for a really long time. It's a tiny bonus. We see each week is 0.04 points, right? So it's really small, but it is a long-term way of honoring those people who've been with us for a really long time.
Isn't that bonus on 12, okay. 24 raids?
12 weeks, yeah, 12 weeks, 24 raids. Yes, that's correct. Because we do 2 attendances per week. That's correct. Okay.
Have you already gone over what's going to happen in the next iteration of the loot list?
How do you mean? Like, what do you mean? What's gonna happen?
So one of the things I didn't like about how we did it in Classic, and this is more circumstantial than anything else, is just I was unlucky with stuff, and then we kept redoing loot lists, and I hadn't been like on. If you had gotten a lot of your items, it benefited you, and if you didn't, it kind of counted against you because it means you'd put all those same items back up. You know, the DFTs, the tiers, those kinds of items.
Oh, I see what you're
So
saying.
my question is, on
uh,
next phase, when we're in Black Temple, are we redoing a whole completely new loot list, or are we like adding items to the existing one? How's that working?
I think they're gonna be separate. So each phase is gonna have a new loot list for that phase, for that phase's content.
So we would maintain the SSC and TK1, and then there would be like a separate Black Temple one.
So keep in mind with
Um,
it's a little different from Classic in that once you're doing Black Temple and Hyjal, you won't be doing SSC and TK. Unless something drastically changes from like vanilla TBC. And that
Interesting.
might get a little
Okay.
more like BWO would still run for stuff. AK-40 still had really good stuff, but the same incentive doesn't exist. Like once you're doing Hyjal and BT, there's very little from tier 5 that's worth anything for us. So I would assume that we're just going to be doing BT and Hyjal once that comes out.
Yeah.
The wrinkle might be when Sunwell comes out. You may end up pushing back.
I hear all
to
that.
BT.
My feedback to you guys is you guys should talk that through and think that through and come up with a policy for it so we can plan accordingly.
I mean, we could
The
honestly.
plan was just to create a new sheet for BT and Hyjal. There won't be the same. Like originally, we tried to do that thing where we had like the AQ40 and Nax included on one sheet, and that didn't work, and then we redid it and just did Nax. So there won't be like a hybrid sheet. It'll just be a brand new sheet for BT and Hyjal when it comes out.
So you're saying that when BT comes out, we're going to stop rating SSC entirely. It's done. And TK.
Yeah, that's
probably,
my.
or we're gonna, like, if we're gonna do it, it really is dependent on time. So if we have time to run things in the 2 days, then we can potentially run things, but we're not going to add additional raid days. So if we do have the time to do it, then we'll probably just go with the same loot sheet that we have. But when we add when we go to new phases, it's not going to be adding to this loot sheet. It's going to be creating a new loot sheet for the new phase.
Okay, thanks. That answers my question.
So I wanted to show. I think that. Oh, I wanted to show the kind of stuff that we see at the end of the end game. Kel'Thuzad, the loot that we have here. Obviously, things like King's Fall and Gressel and Hammer of Twisting Nether and THC. Like, these are some of the most desired items in Nax. But by the end of when we were finishing running things, basically there was no there's no ties left here. And I think that that's the thing that's really cool about this is that when we boil it down and we see everybody's attendance and all that stuff, it comes down to even the best items in the game. It's really simple. It's like, well, the next King's Fall goes to space. Done. So I think that that's really good. I think that that'll make it a lot easier and cleaner for when we're handling the loot. And the other thing that's really nice about it is all of this is public all the time, so there's no surprises. There's no, loot council let me roll on that last time, and now I don't get a roll on it this time, and salt stuff like that. It's just, hey, I'm up for Wind Fury Greatstaff if it drops. Neat. right? Or Zen just won the weapon, and so I'm excited for her because she won the weapon, and also I'm excited because I'm up next, right? Which I think is a healthy way to approach the loot, where we're excited for other people when they win loot, instead of being salty that we lost a roll or something like that. So, or if Zen and I roll and I lose the roll this time, then I know, like, hey, like, I'm up for it next. So yeah, it's not like I have to keep adding it to a soft reserve and feeling bad that I'm missing out on it on other things because I have to do it, do that. So I think that there's a lot of really good things about this. The fact that everything is so public has been super super useful for us in the past. So any I also want to talk about on this, when you're building your loot sheet, if you have any questions, there's some instructions and things that you can look at here. There's also a really handy gear checklist. So this is something that a lot of people just sort of overlook, but there is a checklist here that shows you, the highlighted green things are the items that are in my sheet. The unhighlighted things are the ones that I might want to include in my sheet, right? Things that I need to look up and consider, right? Hey, why don't I have this idol in here? Should look that up and see what it is, that sort of thing. Same thing with off-spec items. You can look up, like, hey, do I want to add these patterns or whatever to a sheet? Okay. Boots of natural grace, are those good? Oh wait, I'm not leatherworking. So things like that you can use this for. That's really handy. The other two tabs are not for you.
Touch on one thing on Takano's question earlier. When we go to the new phase, we would roll the attendance and veteran bonus to the new sheet. You wouldn't be starting at 0 again.
Right. Yeah, attendance and veteran bonus is going to be a constant thing that rolls across from sheet to sheet. Yeah. You don't lose your veteran bonus or attendance when we switch phases.
So you said earlier we have some people who can host all like raids. If those people, if we can get enough people to do them on like an off day, is that something where we can still keep loot sheets available, or would we do like soft reserves in those situations?
Loot sheets only for. Traditionally, what we've done is loot sheet for the main raid days, because you can't like dock somebody the attendance for a non-raid day.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't thought about that.
Sounds fair.
The attendance value is a good point. So the way that we're intending to do stuff in next phase is how we handled things for the end of last phase, where people will everybody shows up to make sure that we get attendance credit, make sure that we have a working raid comp and things like that, and then once everybody shows up, we can ask for volunteers to sit for certain roles and things if we need to. And then we'll, if we don't have volunteers, then people will be voluntold to sit. And those people will still get attendance credit for being there because they showed up on time. They were ready to go to work. But we, obviously can't fit 30 people into a raid. So if people sit out, they still get attendance bonus, or attendance values, and all that stuff added to it. They just don't, they're just not actually in the raid. The other thing for people who were here before, we did remove the scene bonus. So there used to be something that was, if you saw an item and you rolled on it and lost, then you got a bonus on it in the future. And this really kind of screwed some people and put them in a position where like they sat a week and they didn't get to roll on an item that was on their sheet, and then other people basically, like, everybody that was there got that item before them because they didn't get to roll it. So we got rid of that. So everything is just the attendance, veteran bonus, and the passing bonus.
It wasn't if you rolled on it; it was just if it dropped, then you got a small bonus.
There was a roll bonus as well, but yeah, if it dropped and you saw it, then you got something too, which is like, yeah, it was all of that made it more complicated than it needed to be. I went back and looked at all of the data, and it basically, the only thing that it did was like screw 2 people out of items, out of being considered for items. It didn't actually change anything else other than those really corner cases. So it was not worth the headache, not worth trying to explain the calculations and all that stuff to people, and then not worth Cowick never being able to roll on DFT.
I mean, it sounds like a good rule, but in the same sense, it's almost like hurting the people who volunteer to sit. So it's a dual-edged sword.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So any other questions or concerns that people might have?
That's pretty straightforward.
I really like it. I mean, we did we did Loot Council before, and I hated that. The thing that's so nice about this is it shifts all of the focus. So especially for us as officers, being able to know that whatever drops, we just look at this sheet and say,
Grats.
hey, yeah, grats Dave, you got Bone Scythe Ring. Next boss. We're already, we're looking forward, thinking about the next pack, the next boss, the whatever. It makes us, loot takes 30 seconds instead of 10 minutes, and so we save a lot of time that way. It's just, it's good overall, I think. So. And then some people can be like, hey, I'm not up for any items tonight. Like, yeah, I'll volunteer to sit. Like, I'll go spend time with my lady or whatever. And, that's good too. So.
You don't want to go back to Loot Council? That was fun, wasn't it?
No, it was not fun. Man, trying to convince Rue that Locomir should not go to a priest first. Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
Who was the priest she wanted to give it to?
Donuts.
Why? He was healing.
Because he didn't get the eye for 27 weeks.
Oh dear.
We did MC like 27 weeks in a row and got we got the leaf 26 of those weeks.
I'm glad I came
One of
over
those
with
weeks.
my benediction.
Yeah. One of those weeks, the 1 week that we got eye, Donuts went to another raid to try and get eye.
Oh no.
And then it dropped, and I think we gave it to Gumby.
Oh no.
Yeah. It's brutal.
I got the very last one in my previous guild before swapping over to Booty.
And we got to the point where I was just throwing them in your guys' bags as garbage, but yeah. Yeah, not a fan of Loot Council. I think that this is wonderful. It basically front loads all of our thinking about loot. It also makes it so that I can be like, I have, I have a couple of sets of gear that I want to. I'm like, if I'm gonna break White Men, then I want to do it with the pants from the opera event, and I want to do it with the helm from here. So I want to put the helm here, or shoulders, or whatever. There's like things that you can prioritize for you personally that makes it really nice. So I think that it's really good for that as well. Like other people might not value these boots or the cloak or whatever as highly because of other stuff that they've got, and that's great because what that does is that I look at this this item, it's a huge upgrade for me. It's a medium upgrade for somebody else. We order them differently. I get it better. I get it earlier for me because it's a bigger upgrade for me, which is better for the raid. So yeah, I like it. But if there's no other question, are there any other questions?
Yeah, where are you at, Katabi?
I'm logging on.
And then I would say that that's a no.
Okay.
That was the only question I had.
I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording here so that I can get it uploading to the YouTubes, and I'll post it to the channel here.